joined now by Trent Green, who's going to be working the Browns and the Eagles. And Trent, of course, is CBS Sports NFL analyst, two-time Pro Bowler, 11-year career in the NFL. And we'll be chatting with Trent quite a bit, not only here, but on Tops as well on Sundays on CBS Sports Network. Hey, Trent, Tiki and Tierney, what's happening, buddy? How are you?
Hey, good morning, guys. It's game week. This stuff counts for real tonight.
Woo! Game time, game day.
Hey, Trent, do you get yourself
Let's do this.
Do you get yourself ready for your upcoming game by practicing during the Thursday night games? You know what I mean? Sitting on your couch. This is how I would call it.
Yeah, this is what I can't believe he just said that. Chris Collinsworth, what has he done, right?
Look, I have a question for you because we had this conversation about Sam Bradford, and it's rare, even though we're starting to see it more frequently for trades. I mean, when you and I played, no one ever got traded. But nowadays we see trades all the time, and especially for quarterbacks, it can be difficult. How hard is it going to be for Sam Bradford to go into Minnesota and learn that system and then play right away?
You know, I read a stat, and I don't know if it was accurate, but it said Sam Bradford in 6 years, he's had 5 different head coaches and 6 different offensive coordinators. And you've got all that stuff spinning around in your head. You know, I was fortunate. I played on a bunch of different teams, but for the most part, the system I played in was the same from team to team. Now, I had to learn some new words and protection calls and stuff like that, but the base concepts were all the same. Now, he's going to Minnesota with Norv Turner, and I spent 4 years with Norv Turner, and I know how wordy that offense can be. And I'm not sure in all the other previous head coaches and stops that Sam had, if he had any of that. I know that Chip Kelly's offense is not the same, so what he was dealing with there isn't the same. I know the words he was using with Doug Peterson weren't the same because Doug's more of a, you know, Mike Holmgren, Andy Reid, West Coast kind of guy. So that I know those are all different systems. So when you trade, you know, you talk about the trades happening and more trades are happening. It's crazy enough to trade a position player, but for a quarterback to come in as quickly as what they're expecting Bradford to do, it'll be surprising how much of the game plan or how much of the offense he has at his grasp. Like, it could be the matter where they say, you know what, we have a good defense, a good run game. We're going to just sprinkle in these 10 or 20 passes. Don't try learning 200 of them because that would just be overwhelming. But let's just focus on these 10 or 20 passes and these concepts from a protection standpoint. You know, I did see yesterday that they're still talking about Sean Hill is listed as the one. I would have a real hard time thinking they're going to start Sean Hill, even though Sean is much more prepared and much more ready to run the offense. I just think you're really risking yourself if Sean Hill goes in the first game and plays really well and the team plays really well to all of a sudden say, hey, good job, Sean. Now Sam knows the offense he's going to go in. I think that it's too much of a risk. You've got to put Sam in there.
Yeah, but Trent, well, let me ask you, though, what is the real risk outside of maybe people calling sports radio and saying, well, how come you gave up a first-round pick and the guy's on the bench? I mean, the job is to win games. So I hear you as an overall premise, and I actually said the same thing to Tiki last week or, you know, when the trade first went down. But if the object is to win games, why would it matter?
Well, I understand where you're coming from, the voice of public opinion, which within the locker room walls really shouldn't matter. It should be the guys in the locker room, the coaches, the personnel, that kind of thing. That's what they say. That's what the comments are in the press conferences. Where you get into it a little bit, and Tiki can talk about this, is all of a sudden questions start arising in the locker room.
Okay.
All of a sudden, you know, hey, the defensive backs are over in this corner, and they're all over there whispering like, man, what the hell did we do? We just traded away all these picks, and now, you know, why not just go with Sean? We've seen Sean since minicamp or training camp, and then, you know, and I'm not saying that happens. I'm just –
Oh, yeah, it does happen, Trent. Oh, yeah, it does, because I remember
I've been in locker rooms where – and it doesn't matter what position it is, but the quarterback is the one everybody wants to talk about, and the quarterback's the one that on all the guys' phones and social media – that's what the fans are saying. That's who they're talking about. So,
Gotcha.
It can easily happen. So I just think in order to alleviate that drama, I would be surprised if Hill starts.
Yeah, good explanation.
You're right, Trent, because this happened with Kurt Warner when we were, you know, we're 6-2 or whatever it was, or 5-2. And all of a sudden, Eli's playing. It's like, what? Hold on, what's going on? It gets disrupted, and it's a completely different situation than this. But it gets disruptive because everybody's not on the same page.
So to Trent Green with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio. Trent, I brought this up in relation, and obviously you have the Browns and the Eagles, so we'll get specifically what you expect to see from RG3 and Carson Wentz in a second. But I brought this up to start the show in relation to Cam Newton tonight. And you know this is a quarterback. Tiki knows this is a former great running back. There's only so many given years as a professional athlete where your mind and body are in complete and just complete sync, where there's just great symmetry, there's no erosion of physical skill, and the mind slows down, and the game speed is very to your liking. I think that obviously Cam has reached that point. If you agree with my premise, my description, how many other quarterbacks right now do you think fit under that category where the mind and the physical tools are in perfect harmony right now entering the season?
Well, he's pretty elite in that category, especially when you're talking about the mind and the body in sync, because his body is ridiculous when you look at quarterbacks in the National Football League. When you stand and you have a chance to meet him, whether it be in a production meeting or on the sideline, or for that matter, if he comes into studios with you guys, he looks more like a tight end.
Yeah.
When he walks in, to me, he looks more like Tony Gonzalez than he did a quarterback. I mean, he's just, he's this tall, put together, muscle wise. I mean, he's dialed in right now. So I don't know if there's anybody else. I mean, if you want to start talking about guys in, their ages and who matches up from that standpoint,
yep.
From a stature standpoint, obviously Russell Wilson's in a very good place, but Russell Wilson's just a hair under 5'11", which has kind of been the knock on him his entire career, whether it be high school, college, or pro. But from an age standpoint, physical standpoint, mind standpoint, where everything slows down mentally, but you still physically have the tools to do everything, that can be, and I don't have all the list of the 32 quarterbacks. Off the top of my head, Russell Wilson would be that other guy.
Is Rodgers still there for you? Yeah, right?
Oh, Rodgers, I think, I put Rodgers at the top of for me, Aaron Rodgers is still the number one quarterback in the league.
Yeah, me too.
And he's been there for me for probably just like 4 or 5 years. I've had him at that number one spot. And that's not anything against Brady or Breeze or Manning or whatever it was. I just thought that when you started talking about the physical tools, the mobility, being able to move around, but then just with the flick of his wrist, being able to fire the football. So it'll be interesting to see how Aaron, if he's still able to do some of those things. I know physically, obviously getting up in age and some of the injuries and with the offensive line and that, I haven't seen him drop off a lot. I know last year statistically wasn't anywhere near what his previous years had been, but there was a lot going on there from a receiver standpoint and a line standpoint. So I'm still going to hold Aaron in that spot until he proves otherwise. But it's a fun time to be able to see how that's all going to come together.
We're talking to our buddy Trent Green, of course. He's on the Browns and the Eagles game this weekend. CBS Sports NFL analyst, 11 years on Sunday. A couple of Pro Bowls as well, hanging out with us here on Tiki and Tierney.
All right, Trent, let's go to that game. We have the Reclamation Project in RG3 going to Philadelphia, where we have Carson Wentz, who didn't play big-time college football, didn't play at all really in the preseason because of a cracked rib, and is now going to start. I don't think the floor can be too low for these two teams this year. What do we expect from the quarterbacks and really also from both of these squads?
And that's really kind of the unknown going into this game, and that's what makes it so much fun to prepare for it, because I've got notes upon notes. I've got stacks of stuff because I'm trying to figure out two new head coaches. Two new guys. Doug, this is his first time ever head coaching. Hugh, he had 1 year with the Raiders back in 2011. So it's kind of, they're kind of new to that game. They've both been in the league a long time. But just how that's going to unfold, how their clock management, their game management, how they utilize going for a key third down or fourth down, what they do in certain situations, do you punt or try the long field goal, all those things. We don't have a much background with either of these guys to see how they're going to handle it. And then, as you said, Robert Griffin III, after having that incredible 2012 rookie season, really fell off the map, had the injury, and kind of got in the doghouse there in Washington. And, sometimes all the off-the-field stuff played more than the on-the-field stuff. So trying to get him away from that. And I think it'll be a good mix with him and Hugh Jackson. I think that that'll be good for him. I would still like to see less headlines outside of football than what he's garnered here in the last couple of weeks. But, they did vote him a team captain, so he is doing the right things in the locker room. And then with Carson Wentz, as you said, Tiki, he only started, I want to say 14 games in college.
I thought it was 12. Yeah, it was low. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a low number. It was, that junior year he won the national championship, played every game. Senior year ended up having some injuries, missed 6 games, a couple of playoff games in there. Mm-hmm. Came back to the national championship game and won. but he has the size, the arm. He has more mobility than you think when you look at how he can move around. So I think that's a good thing when you look at what Andy Reid did with Donovan McNabb, what Andy Reid did with Alex Smith. Doug Peterson's going to run that same type of stuff. So having a guy that can, Alex gets like 400 yards rushing. I'm not saying he has to get 800 or 900 yards rushing, but I'm saying if you have that as part of your repertoire and you can attack defenses in that way, I think that bodes well for Wentz and Peterson's offense. And then it's just a matter of getting everything in sync. Both teams have a lot of changes on their roster, so we've got plenty of stuff to talk about throughout the course of this game, if indeed it becomes the kind of game that you mentioned, Tiki.
Hey, Trent, real quick, about 40 seconds on this. 3 quick hits. Your realistic expectation, what week does Jared Goff debut? What do you think? Fast.
Oh, I would say more like week 8, 9, 10, kind of more towards the middle. I think they're going to they'll let Keenum go for a while.
Do you think Ryan Fitzpatrick even remotely replicates his numbers from a year ago for the Jets, yes or no?
I think he does, yes, and I think he may even improve on him.
Does Garoppolo play well enough, not that Brady would ever sit when he's ready, but that the conversation even occurs on sports radio in Boston? Do you think Garoppolo plays very well these 4 games?
Garoppolo could be 4-0 and be the number 1 rated quarterback in the NFL, and he's going back to the bench.
I agree, but I agree. But do you think he will play well?
I do. I think he will play well. He's been there long enough. If he doesn't play well, then he's gonna fall off the face of the earth. He's just gonna. If he doesn't play well, then next season New England will release him. Then he'll be on the waiver wire. He'll bounce around the league as a backup for a while, and then he'll be done in 7, 8 years. But this is an opportunity. You've been in the system now long enough. You know what it is Belichick likes to do. You've been able to sit behind Brady and see what it is to do.
There you
he
go.
needs to go in and play like Castle did when Castle had an opportunity. Now, Castle didn't go on and have a lot of success in other places, but Castle stepped in and performed when he had the chance.
Save it for the Trent Green. Save it for the air, man. You can empty the holster. Trent Green, awesome spot. We'll look forward to the Browns and the Eagles. Really well done. Trent Green, CBS Sports NFL analyst. Everybody wants to talk football. Nobody wants to go to commercial.